Hi everyone, this video is a book review about a book that I found last year while I was rummaging through a little free library on the street. And the title of this book is Grandma Nana, and it is written by Veronique Tadjo. I don't know if this is how you pronounce the author's name, so throughout the duration of this video, I'm just going to call her the author. I thought that this book was written in an African language, but from just first glance, it turns out that the language that it is written in is English and Vietnamese. There is no biography about the author in the back of the book, nor is there a biography about the publishing company, so I had to look that up myself. Before I get into the book, let me share with you a little bit about the author. So the author was born in Paris on July 21st, 1955, which makes her about 64 or 65 years old. She's the daughter of an Ivorian civil servant and a French painter. She earned her BA degree, or Bachelor of Arts degree, from the University of Abidjan. She also has a doctorate in African American literature and civilization. So she also was a Fulbright scholar, and she used that scholarship to go to Howard University. In 1998, she went along with a couple of other African writers to write about Rwanda, the genocide in Rwanda, and its aftermath. So I thought that was pretty interesting. When you go to her website, she has all of her books on there. She has interviews. She also has an entire gallery where you can see some of her paintings. Now, this book was published in the year 2000, and apparently I had already read one of the author's books and I didn't know. The book that I read by the author was The Girl Who Didn't Want to Grow Up, and it is basically about a little girl whose father is killed in a war, and because of this, she doesn't want to grow up. So she physically stops growing, and the story tells about like the aftermath of her decision to stop growing and how it affects her and those around her. So it's a pretty interesting story. The other book that the author has that I haven't read but I want to read is called Mami Wata and the Monster. Now, Mami Wata, I believe it's like water spirit mermaids, basically probably the oldest version of a mermaid, like African mermaid. I didn't know there was a children's book about Mami Wata. I had only come across an adult book that talked about Mami Wata and the priestesses or the prophetesses of Mami Wata. I really don't know. So, yeah, that is her bio. Next, the publishing company that she went through is called either Millet or Milet, but I don't know how to pronounce it. Says Milet has indelibly expanded the scope and look of bilingual and multicultural titles for children and adults, combining artistic and linguistic excellence in books and multimedia resources that are educational and enriching on so many levels. And it says it is named after Miletus. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's a historical site on the coast of Turkey. In ancient times, it was a center of knowledge, a place where people from different cultures and locations came together and exchanged ideas, creating new philosophies and directions. So they're all about multiculturalism, and that is why they have so many books on there that are in various languages. When I worked at the library, in the children's section, they had a lot of French books, they had a lot of Spanish books, they barely had any books in like Asian languages, like Vietnamese, Chinese, all of that. They really didn't have a lot of books in African languages, and I looked. The closest I could find was Kiswahili, and there's only like 2 or 3 of those books. So yes, I think that's a really good publishing company. Now let us go into the book. This book is very colorful. It's like a mixture of drawing and photography. I don't know the exact medium she used to create this book, but it looks like she used marker. And I'm just basing this off of the texture. It looks like she used marker to color. Says Grandma Nana loves children, all children. She likes to laugh with them. She likes to take care of them. Basically, this is an elder somewhere in a village. We don't know if these children are her grandchildren or if they're just children that come to her. But obviously, they love her. She's well respected. You can see the photography. The artist's hand combined in the picture. Grandma Nana's house is open to all children. They play outside, they play inside. As soon as the cock crows, they are at her door. I found this page interesting because it reminds me of something I read in, it was either Malidoma Patrice Somme's book, or it was by Sabonfu Somme, who was Malidoma Patrice Somme's former wife, and she has since passed. But one of them mentions that in their villages, the children just go in the house. Like, you don't have any locked doors. You just, if there's a kid running inside, oh well, it's a kid running inside. They can eat, they can play with your children. It's just a tight-knit community. Obviously, these children are having an actual childhood. They don't have to really worry too much about like a stranger in their neighborhood coming to kidnap them because maybe they're related to everybody or there's just a common unity throughout the village. So that part I really liked. They're in a safe environment. This part, this next section of the book, there's a lot going on. It says Grandma Nana has a doll, but it is not like any other doll. But this is the doll. As you can tell, it's an older woman. And you see the patterns on her dress and you see the patterns in the background. It looks like the author artist was drawing the designs of Adinker symbols, or there isn't a Dinker symbol that represents the I don't know what it's called, but the pattern where you lay the cloth on it and then create the Adinker symbols. I don't know what it's called, but I find this very, very interesting. The doll is actually mentioned throughout this entire story, and it plays some type of role, but the author doesn't truly emphasize like what the doll is for. It says, Grandma Nana never parts from her doll. The doll eats and drinks with her. The doll sleeps in her white bed. Even though there's only 3 lines about this doll, it's giving me some information about what this doll is and what it's used for. I have a couple of suspicions. So the first suspicion that I have is that this doll represents Grandma Nana's twin. I don't know if I read this or I heard this somewhere, but in one African culture, if you have a twin and the twin dies, you have a doll to represent the lost twin. And whatever happens to you happens to the doll. If you're going to bed, the doll goes to bed. If you're eating something, you give the doll some food or you make a plate for the twin to eat. If you're getting dressed up, the doll gets dressed up, you know? And Also, like, if you're a twin, um, if you're going to a twin's house, you bring a gift, or if you're meeting somebody, you usually bring a gift. So when I met, uh, what was his name? When I met this one man, he was a twin. So I brought him two presents, even though his twin was alive, to symbolize his twin. I'm giving you a present, and I'm giving your sibling a present. Me, I was almost a twin. I'm an only child, but I was almost a twin. And some of the experiences I've had in my life, I didn't understand, but as I got older, I realized like the significance of the absent twin in my life. It's kind of bizarre. The other suspicion I have is that this doll is used for just magical purposes. And it's because of the white bed. The white bed. I met this man about 2 years ago at a festival, and he practiced Vodun. And he said, when you're asleep, make sure you're wearing all white. Even when you read about like you taking a spiritual bath, afterwards you just dress in all white. It's like purity of cleansing of your soul, putting water underneath your bed. So I feel that Grandma Nana is some type of magical practitioner because of the significance of the white bed. Like everything is in color. Why would you mention the color white in bed? So maybe the doll is used for her divination. I don't know what it would be called in her culture because different divination systems in different cultures do have dolls, but they all have different names for the dolls. Some would say voodoo doll, but I'm pretty sure that's not the proper term for it. I know in another culture it will be called a poppet. It's just based on where you are and what their native word for it is. The next suspicion that I have that makes me think that Grandma Nana was a twin was this section. It says, it's two little girls. It says, Grandma Nana says, it is so nice to see two lovely little girls smiling. It is so nice to see two little girls who are such good friends. So this symbol right here, I don't know what it is. I went straight to my Adinkra symbol poster in my room to find out which Adinkra symbol this represented, but I don't know if it represents an Adinkra symbol, but the closest one I found, there were a couple of symbols that looked like this symbol, but the only one that made sense in the context of what was being said was the Adinkra symbol Fofo. Fofo, seeds of the Fofo plant, warning against jealousy. Adinkrahene, no. Adinkrahene is the king of Adinkra symbols. Adinkrahene is like circles within a circle within a circle, whereas Fofo has the little things on the side, like the little circles on the side. So it says warning against jealousy, which makes sense because it says it's so nice to see two little girls who are such good friends. It says Grandma Nana's doll is very precious to her. It is her lucky charm and she keeps it close to her heart. But I don't think it's a lucky charm. I really think it represents her sister that's not mentioned in this story, if she even had a sister. So as we go along, saying she speaks in riddles to the children and all of that. Grandma Nana knows many important things. She can tell our family's history, and she knows which plants can cure us when we are sick. So she's a root worker. The women in various cultures were usually the first doctors or the only doctors in a community. That's why people got messed up after the Salem witch trials, because not only did you kill the women, you also killed your herbalist and your cook and the one that made your clothes. So that was kind of, yeah, that wasn't good. Of course, she would know how to cure people of different maladies. She's lived a long time. She's involved possibly in divination. The children come up to her, like she knows, she's very wise. So I like that it also mentions that she knows the family history and all of that. So the last page is kind of, I love how the story ends. The last page. But Grandma Nana is very old. So at times when night is coming, she puts her doll on her lap and sits in her chair. For a long time, she watches the sun going down softly, softly. Yeah, this book, even though it was very short, just made me have more questions about Grandma Nan. What culture was she from? Was it like? Because I know the author is an Ivory Coast. I know that's not the proper name, but maybe it's talking about that or people in the Ivory Coast, or maybe there is no specific village and it's just a generic place because most of the villages had elders. Most of them had where the children could just go in and out. They had the women being the herbalists and men being herbalists. They had tradition. It's all across the continent of Africa, tradition, tradition, tradition. And I love how this book ties it all together and makes it fun. It's a very deep book, and I would recommend it, especially if it's bilingual. If you find a copy in a language that you would like. I don't know how many languages this has been printed in or translated in, but the one I have is Vietnamese. So, Grandma Nana. I hope you enjoyed this book review and I hope you learned something about dolls and heritage and elders and all of that. And I will talk to you later. Bye bye.